So today is the first day of this practice period we call Ango. And it's also our first Ango. And it's a kind of gesture toward Ango. I've explained Ango in the past. Ango was the rainy season retreat originally for monks in India. So they would gather during the rains and they would stay in one place. They would have some shelter and they would benefit from community and they would deepen their practice together. And then when the rain subsided, they would go back out into the world. And over the centuries, this has become a very specific container for practice. In Zen monasteries, it happens once in summer and once in winter. And there's a schedule. There are ceremonies that open it, there are ceremonies in the middle, there are ceremonies that end it. And there's a little less emphasis on the labor part of practice, the chopping wood part, and more emphasis on zazen, more emphasis on ritual, more emphasis on the things that happen inside. Monks don't enter and monks don't leave. So what we're doing is a nod toward that. I went looking for something that spoke to the spirit of this. And the first place I looked was Dogen in Shobogenzo wrote a fascicle, a chapter called Ango, where he is trying to capture something of the flavor of this practice, this very specific thing of coming together in this way. And I wanted to share just one passage from that, one section. Dogen writes, "The 90-day retreat is a dharma from which the Buddhas and the ancestors have never deviated." So he's saying this goes back to the very, very beginning. This being the case, human kings, King Shakra, King Brahma, and the like, becoming members of the Bhikkhu Sangha, if only for one summer, should keep the retreat. That would be seeing the Buddha. So he's speaking specifically to this practice, this very old practice of temporary ordination, wherein someone, even a king, might come and shave their head and put on robes and do one ango with the other monks to practice to live in that way. And then they might go back to their station in the world, go back to their lives. But Dogen says if they were to do this, that would be seeing the Buddha. And he continues, humans, devas, and dragons, if only for one 90-day period, should become bhikkhu or bhikkhuni and keep the retreat. Humans, devas, and dragons should also ordain as monks or nuns and join the Ango. And he says again, this in itself would be seeing the Buddha. To have joined an assembly of the Buddhas and ancestors and kept the 90-day retreat is to have seen the Buddha. We shouldn't be surprised by this language. We shouldn't be surprised. He's not saying, if you go on this retreat, this intensive retreat, something might happen. I think when there's sesshin, when there's some sort of meditation retreat, it's so easy to fall into the idea, I should go do that, because if I do that, I might go deep enough that something transformative takes place. I change. Or I have an insight that right now it's in this ordinary life is not so easy, but in that container, maybe I can see the thing that right now I don't see. And Dogen says, just to join this retreat is itself seeing the Buddha. Not maybe, not because you earn it, but the coming together in this way is that. He keeps going. He says, fortunately now, before our dewdrop lives have been lost, those of us who have already kept a summer retreat, whether in the heavens above or among humans, have had our own skin, flesh, bones, and marrow exchanged for the skin, flesh, bones, and marrow of the Buddhas and ancestors. We have had our skin, flesh, bones, and marrow exchanged for the skin, flesh, bones, and marrow of the Buddhas and ancestors. Because the Buddhas and ancestors come and keep the retreat through us, each and every person's practice of the retreat is the retreat's practice of each person. We don't talk about this enough. We talk about the other part. We talk about the idea that Zazen is itself Buddha, or that only Buddhas do Zazen. That practice contains all of it. Here, Dogen extends it. He steps back and he says it's not just that practice, it's the whole practice. Coming together in community also is Buddha. In the same way that we might say that Zazen does you rather than you doing Zazen. He says the retreat is practicing you, even as you think that you're practicing the retreat. And he says the Buddhas and ancestors are present, and they're present in you. They're practicing as you right now. I'll read this great line one more time. Each and every person's practice of the retreat is the retreat's practice of each person. This being so, those with a retreat can only be called 1,000 Buddhas and 10,000 ancestors. So he's saying this is the title of someone who has done an Ango, who has practiced in this way. 1,000 Buddhas and 10,000 ancestors. Why is this? The retreat is the skin, flesh, bones, and marrow, the mind and consciousness, the physical body of the Buddhas and ancestors. It is their crown of the head and eyes. It is their fist and nose. It is their round form and Buddha nature. It is their whisk and staff. It is their bamboo staff and reed cushion. The practice itself, he's saying, is the physical body of Buddha. It is the physical body of the ancestors who brought this practice to us. It is their body and it is their eyes. It's their nose. It's their Buddha nature. It's the implements that they hold. It's all of it. And that manifests through us. And then he concludes this by saying, Though the retreat is not the creating of something new, it is not the re-implementing of something old. Hmm. And this is an example of Dogen being so invested in time, time as a simultaneity. It's not that we create this. This is our first one, but it isn't the first one. He says, it's not that you're making something new, but you're also not just putting on something that's old. There's just this. There's just this retreat. And the past is here. The Buddhas and the ancestors are here. And by extension, the future is here. They're all here. And nothing that he says about Ango, about this practice period, is different from any other day, except that when we call it something, when we name it something, when we say that there's a beginning and an end, we give ourselves a way of holding the idea of it, the idea that we are invoking, the idea that we are inviting, that something is functioning that feels almost too extraordinary. And just as with everything else in this practice, we play with that inside of a container that we create. But we do that because it doesn't exist in that container. Because it's all around all the time, in every moment and in every aspect of this practice. When I found this passage, I felt, for me, it shakes me up. So much of this practice period, so much, especially of the ceremonies that we do in June, become a technical exercise of trying to get something right. And so my attention goes to these ceremonies that are supposed to be done with step one, step two, step three, step four. And we're inviting people here, and we also are so caught up in the logistics. Who will arrive when, and where will they stay, and what will we feed them? There's so many lists. And in truth, in any monastery that is putting on an Ango, it's not that different. There's a lot of checking boxes. Did we do that on the right day? Did we remember to do this? Did everyone line up the way that they're supposed to line up? And in that way, we kind of bring ourselves to the moment. There's so much asked of us that we can't be complacent. But when I read this, I'm reminded all of that, that it feels like we're making. It feels like we're making a container. All of that actually takes place within the container. And the container is vast. He says that a single person on retreat is 1,000 Buddhas and 10,000 ancestors. And when you hear 1,000, you know, because this is Thousand Harbours Temple, that 1,000 means infinite. This moment, like all moments, but especially this moment, because we're choosing it, this moment is an opportunity for us to understand ourselves as part of a we. We can imagine in a very simple way that all of us, all of you online and all of you here, are actually just sitting in one circle and we're all facing each other. We say, okay, this is us. And then we're asked to imagine that all the 1,000 Buddhas and 10,000 ancestors are also sitting in that circle. And they are with us and they are us. And they're all facing each other. They all see each other equally in this present moment. We can understand ourselves also as part of these 1,000 harbors. That this temple is 1,000 temples, some of which you're all in today, one of which is right here, most of which we can't even see today. We don't know where they are. But they also form that circle, all facing in, all understanding what we share, and also that there's so many. When we pay attention, when we notice that, when we find ourselves in that circle, for me, the feeling is, wow, this is not a few of us in a tiny building. And this is not a few of us on a Zoom call. When we sit in this way, when we practice in this way, when we chant in this way, when we say, beings are countless, we vow to free them all, we don't mean we mean we. And we take that up for the whole world. And we take that up for everyone who came before, and we take it up for everyone who is on their way. Ango is a great coming together. Far, far beyond what we can comprehend. That's the spirit of this. That we show up for this and we see who is in the room, and we also see everyone who is not. And we include them so that they can be part of this too. And we let them practice through us. We allow ourselves to have our skin, flesh, bones, and marrow switched out so that someone else can also be here. And then, when the Ango is finished and all the bells have been rung and the tent has been taken down, we step out into the world, into all of our little individual spaces, and we offer ourselves in the same way. That all beings might be here with me. That this bite of food might be me feeding all beings. that this breath I take, that I breathe as all beings, not in an imaginary way, not as a thought exercise, but as an offering of myself, as an offering of ourselves. And that's where I'll stop.